So today we're going to talk about working with me as a buyer, and this is part two. This is when we're going to talk about finding the perfect house, taking it all the way through the contract process to closing, and I get to hand you your keys. That's coming up next. Stick around for this one. Hey everyone, it's Matt here once again with the Matt Allen Real Estate Team. End of July 2024, and it is a hot one here in Central Florida today. We're going to go through the final chapter, meaning that you as a buyer are working with me directly, and how we go from finding that perfect house, which is part two of this series, all the way to closing and successfully giving you the keys. So today we're going to talk about the first step in that process, which is we're out looking at houses. We found a couple of houses you're interested in taking a look at. We set up the showings, and we spend as much time as you need to go through those houses. I'm going to show you some of the highlights of the house. We're going to look at roof age. We're going to look at curb appeal, all sorts of things, and kind of figure out what your tastes are. And possibly by the end of that day or within a few showing sessions, you may find the house that works for you. By the way, if you're new to our station, hit that like and subscribe button, hit the bell, share this with friends, family, whoever might have an interest in real estate, specifically here in Central Florida. So once we have identified the house that you think you're ready to make an offer on, that's when we go to work. We start with evaluation of the house, and I'm going to look very carefully at active, pending, sold properties in and around that area. We look for like-kind properties, so similar age, within like a 3 to 5 mile radius of the house. We're looking at things like upgrades, lot size, square footage. So we look at a lot of things, and we really try to establish what the value is in that property in order to come up with a strategy for making that offer. Now, once we know what that value is and we have spoken to the lender and we're good to go for starting to write that offer, we will come up with a strategy of how we're going to go about the negotiation process. Yes, there's 99.9% of the time going to be some negotiation in there, unless we're in a multiple offer situation, and even then, there still could be a possibility of some negotiation. But that's okay. Don't get scared by that. We just need to know the parameters. So I need to know how much is your top of the line, how much are you willing to spend, and then any other negotiation things like closing times, time for inspections, appraisal periods, things like that. Are we financing? Are we paying cash? I need to know all of that up front. And we need to know kind of how far we're going to negotiate. Now, I always, rule of thumb, tell every buyer, you really don't want to go more than 1 to 2 negotiations back and forth. In other words, we make an offer, they counteroffer back, we make another offer, they counteroffer back. That's about as far as I would take things. Once we get past that, it starts becoming a nitpicking, and people start letting their emotions take over, and it becomes a bit of a challenge to come to an agreement on a price. So that's gonna be the next step in the process. Hey, good news. We got that price negotiated out. We've got a signed, executed contract. What's next? The next part is very important, and that's getting your escrow money to the title company, notifying the lender that we have a contract, and scheduling inspections. Traditionally, I like to ask for 10 to 14 days as an inspection period. Sometimes it gets a little less than that, but typically, depending on the type of house you're buying, you're going to want a home inspection, wood destroying organism inspection here in Florida that we require, or most lenders require. And then if you've got a pool, you can do a pool inspection. To take it to the higher extreme, if you're concerned about a roof, we can have a roof inspection. So there are some things that we can do. If you're on a septic system, we'd want to have a septic inspection. So keep in mind, that's kind of the next step. We're going to do escrow. notify the lender, notify the insurance carrier, and order those inspections. Now, once those inspections are completed, that's when we're going to look at the inspection report and say, are we okay with what is happening with the house? Traditionally, we're going to be in an as-is contract. So there's little room for us to get a lot of repairs done. But if there are things that are concerning to you, I certainly can address that with the listing agent, see if we can get those at least repaired or possibly get a credit toward those repairs so you can take care of them at a later date. All right, at this point, we're about halfway through. We've established that the inspection is acceptable for you, or we've negotiated out some repairs. Now we notify the lender to order the appraisal, and we'll sit back and make sure that the house appraises. Now, if you are a cash deal, this is an optional thing. A lot of cash transactions don't require it or don't want it, but it's entirely up to you. If you want to make sure that the value is there for supporting what you're buying it for, you most certainly can have that. But there probably would not be an appraisal contingency on a cash transaction like there would be if you're financing. Now remember, financing, they're only going to lend on what that house appraises for. Now, once we're through that appraisal process and that house appraises for hopefully what we've got it under contract for, or even a little more, which is bonus, now we work on some other things. We work on getting our insurance established. We'll work on getting utilities switched over for the closing date, because at this point we're pretty confident that we're going to get to that closing table. We're waiting on what's called a loan commitment. That means the lender has submitted all of that fun stuff that you've been requested to provide to them with your W-2s and your employment details and your bank statements, all that stuff, tax returns. They've looked it over, they've sent it into a underwriter, and the underwriter is just about to say, okay, we're going to give you loan commitment. They may ask for some things in the meantime, clear title to the property, which brings in another facet of this. The title company is going to be asking you questions. Are you going to be there for the closing? Do you want a survey? And I would probably recommend, if this is your first house or the seller doesn't have a survey, to go ahead and order that as well. So everybody's kind of getting things in line with that target date, closing date that's on the contract. Getting exciting, great news. We've got the loan commitment. We've got what's called the clear to close, which means everything's been approved through the lender. We've gone through all the inspections and all the repairs have been completed. Your insurance is bound, meaning you've got insurance. You've worked on all the utilities to get them over. You've forwarded your mail. You've got the mover scheduled. We are getting very close, you guys. It's very exciting at this point. We want to make sure we do what's called the final walkthrough. Usually the day of or the morning of the closing, depending how you're going to do the closing, we will schedule time to go to that house, take a walk through, let you absorb it in, make sure the house is in the condition it was when you originally looked at it. That's what we're really focused on, making sure nothing was taken out of the house or, there was some damage done. We've had situations where the seller has moved out and damaged the house. So we want to make sure all of that's taken care of. Again, as a safety valve to make sure you moving in is a positive experience. So that's really the last step. And then we take a trip to the title company and start signing documents. Now, a couple days before we go to the closing, they're going to provide you what's called a preliminary HUD or a CD or a settlement statement. It's called several names depending on what phase we're signing it in, but it's basically a closing document. It's going to show you all the fees broken down, what your buyer's fees are, what the seller's fees are, what the purchase price is, how much you're financing, and it's going to give you a total of what you need to bring to the table. And what I mean by that is your final net figure. So let's say you're buying a house for $100,000, you're putting the down payment down, you've got closing costs. At the bottom, it's going to say you need $10,000 to close. And that's going to come from you personally. Most title companies use wires, so they want you to wire the money in directly, which is good. It's going to protect you, and it's easy to go from your bank directly into the title company, so you don't have to write a check or a cashier's check or anything. It goes directly to the title company. Once they have all funds and everybody signed, guess what? You've officially closed. Congratulations. That's just the end of that. You are a customer for life with me, so you're going to constantly hear from me, giving you tips, providing you resource, and that's the most important thing. Always use me as a resource for anything you need. I need a carpenter. I need somebody who can work on appliances. I need a painter. All those things I have some decent resources with, and those constantly change as I find good ones, as I phase out ones that aren't so good. So keep in mind, we will try to keep on a constant conversation and relationship well past the closing date. Thank you so much. I hope this was helpful for you. Again, you probably have a lot of questions. Drop them down below. I'm happy to always help and always happy to answer as many questions. Even if you're not my client, I'm more than happy to answer questions for you. Thanks again, and guess what? We'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye.